This is Kevin Cunningham, and we are at the Obrick Studio. I am your host, and we have in the hot seat today, Jeronne Maymon. Y'all give it up for him. Y'all give it up for him, Jeronne. My man Jeronne. Give it up for him again, y'all. Give it up. Listen here, y'all. Today we are freelancing. My man Jeronne, we just talking. Jeronne, how you doing today, man?
I'm blessed, man. It's been a really good week.
Yes, sir.
Weekend was really fantastic, very productive. Looking forward to getting this one started, man. You know, I know people always drag on Mondays, but Mondays is the best day of the week.
Man, I tell you what. Now, for me, it just depends on what you do.
That's fair.
It just depends on what you do, cause man, as much as I drive that 18-wheeler, it's like, I don't know. Every day is the same.
Yeah. No, I got a couple friends and I got a couple family members that just started their trucking journey, and they learn something new every day. You know what I mean? It's a journey of introspection, because when you're on the road so much, usually you wouldn't think you would do as much thinking, but people think a lot. You know what I mean?
Oh, you have to. I mean, you like literally have to think.
Yeah.
I mean, that's bottom line.
Yeah.
Because, you know, like I said, every day is different. Every day. You know, somebody's pulling out in front of you, you know, somebody telling you number one, if you understand what I mean. You know, every day is different. So, you know, you have to, and the different weather conditions.
Yeah.
Every day is different. So yeah. Man, I want you enlighten us, man, and tell us what you do and how can I help?
Yeah, most certainly. Me being young, obviously African American, being in a financial space and being labeled as a financial advisor comes with a lot of different challenges, right? Especially when you think about just the psychological aspect of how people view money. You know what I mean? Especially if you look like us, the conversation may be a little different than what the normal conversation should be. And so I've been operating in the financial space as an advisor, really just going through and trying to impact the community as best I can with giving them the education behind the things that are out there that's available to them, then also the empowerment to go out there and act on those things.
You know, that's an awesome thing that you do, because now let me speak for myself and my family, me and my wife. You know, having a financial advisor would be awesome, because guess what? We mistreat money.
Yeah.
We mistreat our finances.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny because people look at my wife and I, and they're like, man, y'all got it going on. Well, you know, thank you. but the thing is this, you know, people are always looking at a person or a couple and thinking that when the truth is that, hey, you know, we may look like we got it going on, but we really don't.
Yeah.
You know, and the thing is that, you know, we carry it well.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I always tell people I am great at faking the funk. I can fake the funk with the best of them.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. We're not poor. We are average. We are average Americans.
Yeah.
That we are blessed. We've had our home for 23 years.
Blessings, blessings.
We have things that that we're pretty proud of. But on the flip side of that, it comes with a cost, and the cost is that, hey, you have to go to work.
Yeah.
You have to work for everything that you have. There are no handouts in the Cunningham household. We don't have no kind of handouts. But on the flip side of that, wherever we can help someone, we will help.
Yeah. So I think a lot of what I do, there is a huge disconnect with what people think that financial advisors do. So initially, when you meet with a financial advisor, your first thought may be, how much money do I have to have this conversation, right? Or I gotta have X, Y, and Z in place in order to have this conversation with such and such. That's not necessarily the case. The thing that we focus on, especially the way I'm building my practice over the last few years, has really been an emphasis on, like I said, the foundational pillars of the education and empowerment. But there's so many different viewpoints on financial landscape, right? I may be sitting down with a 24-year-old today and then sitting down with a 56-year-old tomorrow and having the same conversation, but it all boils down to the same point. I wish I would have started sooner, right?
Oh, yes,
and so
far.
the financial planning emphasis that I put on the conversation is, where are you today, right? And where do you want to be 5, 10, 30 years from now? Ultimately, when work becomes that choice and you have that freedom to say, hey, I can do X, Y, and Z because I've positioned myself to have that freedom, those are the conversations that we want to have, right? We want to begin with the end in mind to try to get there by planning intentionally rather than by default, because ultimately we know so many things going to hit us. And the point that I try to drive home, the real big point, is that what is your highest value asset? And most people get that question wrong. And I think starting there, just bringing things home into the perspective of, if you don't know what your highest valued asset is, that's a problem. So the conversation is more so in a personal level rather than, oh, my friend is doing X, Y, Z, I want to do X, Y, Z. But you may not be ready for X, Y, Z because your financial standpoint or the way you are in your accumulation phase has to be more emphasized for building up this safe money rather than being more aggressive right now.
Right. Let me ask you this. So let's go back to that 24-year-old conversation, because I wish like someone had pulled me to the side when I was in my early 20s instead of my 40s.
Yeah.
So what would that conversation be like with the 24-year-old?
Yeah. The question I always like to ask, and this is one of the first questions outside of getting to know you better, because it's all about me learning more what's important to you on the personal and the professional side before we can even begin having a conversation about numbers, right? And so the first question I always try to ask is, let's say me and you, we sitting down, right? And granted, you're 24 right now. Like, let's say me, you know what I'm saying? Go back into that mindset and say you're 24, right?
Yeah.
Let's say me and you sitting down, right? 3 years from now, all the goals that you have for yourself, whether these are personal or professional goals, right? Let's say you knock them out the park. Kevin, you clear the table, right? What does Kevin's life look like at that point in time?
So at 24, actually at 24, I was almost at the point where, okay, it's time to get serious about my relationship status. Then, because at 24, at 27, that's when I got when I got married, and at 29, that's when I bought my home. So at that point in time, I was at the beginning of my maturity stage in life. I always, at that time, I had 2 jobs. I always worked 2 jobs. So I was about my money. But here's the thing. I was about my money, but I wasn't I wasn't doing right with my money. I was not doing right. So I always had two paychecks coming in.
Yeah.
Always. And there again, I worked hard doing the whole week, and when the weekend came,
Blew it. Yeah.
it was gone.
And so here's my my gripe with all of that. That's how we all think. When I'm having motion, right? When I got things that are going to be guaranteed to come in, I know I got another paycheck coming in 2 weeks. My mindset on this first one, blow it, right? And think about if the mindset shifted to do at least 20% of what you make over the whole year into certain avenues that'll at least be doing the heavy lifting while you still doing the heavy lifting. Because that's what the conversation boils down to, especially everything that's predicated in the financial world on how you're gonna build your wealth is based on the time horizon, right? From when it's sunset, from the sunrise to the sunsets, right? And on your working years, that's only so long, right? Depending on what your viewpoint of money is, right? I was never really taught anything on how to make money an asset, right? And most people aren't, right? The conversation in the household is more so mom and daddy is making it happen with whatever mommy and daddy has, right? And mommy and daddy really don't share the insights on how they do so, right? And my parents, they great people, married 25 plus years, mom, daddy, strong black household, raised us the best way they could.
Right.
Mom instilled a lot of values in me that I'm gonna take to my graves and pour to my children. But making money more of an asset wasn't one of them, right? I had to go out and do that on my own. And so for the vast majority of people, if that's not the mindset, you'll probably never get that understanding, right? And so what it comes down to when you think about how people view money is that if I can make it fast, or if I can make it double, or if I can just get it without doing anything, that's what I want, right? But we're not really taught delayed gratification. We're not taught good habits on how to put something in a place and let it work for us and understand compound interest. Right. And so there's other things that we can be doing that's also working while we're working.
Right.
And that's safe. A lot of times if something is foreign to you, it's like, what's the catch? You know what I mean? Or if somebody wants to put you in a better mindset, it's more so of what do you get out of it?
Exactly.
Yeah, but the beautiful part about the business that I'm in, obviously, I'm contracted out by Northwestern, but I build my practice the way I want to build it. And my whole thing is if we implement something that you don't know why we're doing it, that's a loss in my column. Because eventually, at some point, when the stock market does what the stock market does, when life happens to you, which is going to happen to you, if I didn't have the necessary conversations with you to not only try to mitigate some of those uncertainties, then I'm doing you a disservice. And that's why ultimately we focus on the whole comprehensive aspect, not only just wealth management. We're not only looking at assets and investments or real estate or trying to make money flip, right? We're looking at more so the whole totality of the picture from a vision that you cast that said, hey, X, Y, and Z is important to me. Making sure I got enough money to put towards my children's education and then still be able to live a life in retirement that I see fit, because most parents, and it's sad, but it's also a beautiful mindset when you think of, okay, I get why they would think like that, but it ultimately pigeonholes us as a community, is that we'll put our children's needs, urges, and wants before ours, but not knowing that our time horizon is shorter to a day where we won't be bringing in any income other than what we've already done. Right, and our kids, they have another 20, 30, 40 years of working life that they can go make something happen when you're 50, 60, and you're like, oh, I got to give X, Y, and Z for this to happen for my children, but you're in retirement now and you only have X, Y, and Z. So really just trying to get the mind state of what's more important now, right? Legacy, longevity, liquidity, right? What are those aspects and how do they rank up in your life? And then how can we get to a plan where we showing the overall landscape and then just bringing everything together in a more money efficient, time efficient way,
Wow, that's I'm telling you, that's deep.
Yeah, man.
It's deep. I think that as far as our community goes, that we need more people like you to stand up and say, hey, let's teach, let's give out this information and try to let these young people know that, you know, whatever you make, you can half in that what you make. I don't know. I ain't gonna say half him, but let's put certain monies to the side, and let's just keep putting it to the side. Let it grow, let it work for you, and 20 years down the line, you will be grateful that you did what you did. So I really do wish that someone had pulled me to the side. I'm gonna tell you like one thing, as far as real estate.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, that's one of the things I wish somebody had pulled me to the side and said, "Hey, I think that you would be good at this."
Yeah. I think what's so fascinating about life is that no matter where you are or what you've done, if you still have use and activity of your limbs, God has blessed you to get up every day with the right mindset.
Yes, sir.
You can almost reinvent yourself at any point in time. You know what I mean?
That's
So
true.
it ain't never too late to start doing anything. And I try to stay away from the mindset of it being too late. Like even if you see somebody that's 40 years old, 50 years old is going back to get their degree, that's something that's internal that's gonna make them feel better. You can't put a price tag on peace of mind.
Amen.
You know what I mean? I tell people that all the time because it's one of those things where I'm with myself 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
If I'm not on my team, who else gonna be on my team? Man. The world is meant to beat you up and stress you out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you beating yourself up internally, you ultimately never will win. You know what I mean? And that's just what it is.
Yes,
you can't get away from the voice that's in your head. You know
right.
what I mean? You can go dilute it with whatever activity that you feel is gonna do that. Yeah. But at the end of the day, that voice still always gonna be tapping you right there and saying, "Hey, what you thinking now?"
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's always gonna have to be. You got to be in control of your thoughts, and it's one of those things that is. I hate when people say it was easier said than done. No, all this stuff is hard. Mm-hmm. It's all hard. Going through it is hard, or not going through it is hard.
Yeah,
choose a hard.
That's true.
Choose a hard.
Yeah.
And so it's just it comes with a lot because obviously dealing with people can be draining, but obviously knowing where I get my help from, making sure I'm filled up because at the end of the day, it's not about me.
Yes.
I always try to move with a selfless mindset, like that I am second mindset, because the work that I do, sometimes people ain't receptive to the conversation because obviously, like I told you earlier, everything with finances has a psychological and emotional trauma string attached to it.
Yeah.
Good, bad, or indifferent, it's a string attached to it. And we all gonna view that, how we was either raised, the experience we didn't have, things we done been through, we gonna frame that in our relationship with money, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And whether that's good or bad, that's what you get. And ultimately being able to correct some of those habits is like what you gotta do with anything else. You gotta put time in, right? You gotta put a plan together and you gotta follow that plan. And that's essentially what the kind of work that I do. Yeah. We go through really kind of what we have now is an interpersonal, collaborative conversation. Really just try to figure out what's important to you. We put that plan together, and then ultimately, when it's all said and done, if there's any gaps in there, we say, hey, this is what I would do if I was you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And kind of let the chips fall from there. So it's really a blessing to be doing what I'm doing, and obviously representing a people in a place that we don't necessarily see black advisors, in a light, and really just trying to change the narrative of what it means to have a financial advisor and being able to walk through life with you, because we don't do transactional work. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's more so if we're implementing something, we're getting back together every 3 to 6 months, every 4 to 6 times to a year, depending on what we're tracking towards. You know what I mean? And obviously, some clients we're more intense than others. Some clients may just say, hey, this is what I need, and then, that's it. Other clients, hey, we got a scheduled regimen of what we're tracking towards. I'm planning on getting married. I'm planning on getting my first house. I'm planning on buying my second real estate property. Yeah. We're having conversations about all different types of things, and it's a blessing to be able to impact and change lives, not only today, but also generational. You know what I mean? So
that's good stuff, man. That's good stuff. Right now, look here, we're gonna go to a commercial, and we'll be right back.
When it's time to mow the lawn or begin a new construction project, contact the services of B&B Lawn Service, a service for all. Looking for soul into food? Visit and taste the love of Chef Mo. Looking to grow your small business? Contact Tanika Harper, The Roots Collective by Shara Foundation, a entrepreneur extraordinaire.
Welcome back, y'all. This is Kevin Cunningham. And if you're just joining us, we have Jeronne Maymon in the hot seat today, y'all. Yes, sir. And we are talking about that mean green, that financial, those financials.
Yeah, man.
And, great collaboration going on here. Great collaboration. Jeronne, I want to ask you something. What do you feel about when you hear people say, money is the root of all evil?
I think money has such a unique effect on people.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like alcohol. Alcohol entices you to say things that you've been meaning to say. But, it really does.
The truth come out.
What you say? They say a drunk man don't speak no lies. So because usually that liquid courage make you start. Things that you have. There's a study, and I read about it because I got my master's in psychology. It's one of those things where I'm always just thinking, okay, how to understand people better, right? There's a study that kind of just dived into the kind of thoughts that we have on a day-to-day basis.
Mm-hmm.
It said about 90% of your thoughts are recycled, are the same, right? And so if you think about something for so long, whether it's internal that you haven't verbalized, you eventually gonna get to a point where it gotta come out, right? And most of the time, it happens during arguments or heated discussions or when times people got that courage inside of them, whatever courage it is, they start to say things that they've been wanting to say. Yeah. And when you get money, it's the same effect. It's going to entice you to do things and be the way that you always wish you could be. Say the things that you always, because think about it, when people get money, they usually have a lower tolerance for a lot of things. You know what I mean? Whether it's good, bad, or indifference, or whether they the same person, a day ago that was doing the same things that would get on other people's nerves. Now they got money. Now they going to start saying things that they just get on their nerves out of the blue. And it's one of those things like, money has a unique effect on people. And granted, I don't think money makes somebody evil. It just reveals your character. Takes the blindfold off.
Yeah, that's funny because around, let's just say, the end of January, 1st of February, and, people getting ready to get those taxes, and we feel like we rich. I got some money now.
You talking to everybody crazy. You at the cashier. She going too slow. You telling you got places to be.
Right.
It's like, come on now, what we doing? But I tell you what though, if you are getting those tax returns, the biggest thing I would encourage you to do is go find you an advisor or someone that you're comfortable with talking with about your finances, no matter where you are. In your journey of accumulation into when work becomes that choice, because at some point you have to find a way to have your money do some of the heavy lifting. Inflation right now is too high. Yes. The way the economy is transitioning is going into a direction where if you have anything that's not working outside of your children, you know what I mean? So your kids obviously, people call my broke best friends, and all that kind of stuff. But outside of that, but if you ain't got money that's working for you while you also working, you ultimately gonna end up having to come to a decision, right? And whatever the decision is, you ain't gonna want to make it, because obviously money right now is the value of a dollar is going backwards.
Yes, sir.
And if you have anything that's sitting around that's not earning more than you, whatever that bank is giving you in that 0.111, whatever it is, percentage on your dollar, you got to have a conversation, And it's one of those things that may be uncomfortable at first, but I guarantee you there's been times where people may have not understood why we did it in the first place, and then it came back to me 6 months, years later and said, I'm so glad, why didn't you have me do more of X, Y, and Z? And I promise you, just have the conversation if nothing else,
Yeah. So right now, of everything that you do of being a financial advisor, are you or is how can I say it? Your position, are you busy a certain part of the year, or is it just like steady going across the board?
I think it ranges, because at the end of the day, the business that I do, I make my own schedule, right? And a lot of it is trying to meet with as many people as I possibly can, because there's so many people who will never get the opportunity to plan for their future. You know what I mean? And that just is what it is, because there's a lot of advisors, but then again, like I said, there's not a lot of people that's receptive to the kind of work that we do, or there may be a disconnect between what we do and what they think we do, right? Okay. And so, because eventually, no one's sitting around by the phone waiting on an advisor to say, hey, I would like to meet with you. You know what I mean? You got to either know somebody, or somebody got to connect you with that person. Right. Most people, especially after COVID, don't really make connections that well anymore. People don't really like meeting new people or doing new things. And so it's one of those things where you have to be receptive to a conversation about your finances. And a lot of it is anxiety, because people think, because I haven't done X, Y, and Z, or I'm not in a place to do X, Y, and Z, I shouldn't be having a conversation. That's the total opposite.
But this is true.
It is
what you just said. That's how people think.
Yeah.
That mindset is totally backwards.
Yeah. And it doesn't do you any favors, because at the end of the day, time and study passing by. And then that gap of what you have to do, or what's required, just so you can live the life that you're currently living 20 years from now, God willing, right? You have to have the conversation. You ain't gonna roll over. There's and granted, I know people are gonna get on me for this, but if you look at what the average 401k is, it's less than 6 figures. So think about that. If you work for a corporate employer, which most people do, right? I mean, granted, now everybody's going more to the entrepreneur mindset, which is good, because obviously the tax code benefits those entrepreneurs.
Yes.
But most people work for qualified employers, and you only have a 401k that you barely want to put the max in on that. You know,
and that's probably what, 5 to 7%.
Yeah, at best. And obviously, you work for a good employer, you may get up to 10, and they may match you. But for the vast majority, we don't put it into our 401k because we want that money now, right? We can't wait to age 59 and a half to do
You're right.
And most people, we have either cash on hand or the 401k.
Because I'll raise my hand on that. Yeah. I'm that way.
Yeah, I mean, but it's how we're conditioned to think. There's no education behind what you should be doing with your benefits that your employer gives you, and how you should be taking advantage of all of that. If they offer it to you, take advantage of it, because everything in my space is based off age and health, right? And most people are getting older every day, getting more unhealthy every day, and obviously it is what it is. We're transitioning to a point where we all have a day. Somebody's going to receive a phone call. They're going to see a Facebook post about me, about my whatever. Everybody got a day, and it's one of those things where if I understand that I'm building a legacy for my children, for my wife, for my name to live on, whatever it may be, I have to plan for it.
Yeah.
And that's just the biggest thing that I'm emphasizing, is just the planning aspect, because that's at the core of what I do, right? Outside of just talking about stocks and investment and wealth management, outside of just the risk management, planning, right? Planning.
That's the word, y'all. Planning. Let me ask you something, and I'm kind of like switching the gears now.
Yeah.
I get a lot, and when I say a lot, I mean a lot of unsolicited request. People sending me like these Bitcoin, was it Bitcoin?
Yeah.
People sending me requests for me to let them in my world.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no. So what is, first thing first, I don't even know what Bitcoin is.
Yeah.
But it may be something that will help me. I don't know that. But at this point right now, I don't care to know about it. But since we are on the show, I'm going to ask you about Bitcoin. Do you know anything about it?
Yeah. Bitcoin is unique it's a speculative currency, and I don't want to get into the weeds on Bitcoin because there's so many different avenues, and there's obviously a new coin every other month. But there's a lot of interesting momentum around Bitcoin, and I always encourage individuals to do their own research before they come with just questions or surrounding something that may be available to them, because most people they are only interested in things that their friends are doing, and their friends may have a particular reason why they're doing what they're doing because their landscape may be different, and everybody's financial landscape is different.
Yes.
And so Bitcoin, what I mean is speculative. You can put money in today and it could be gone tomorrow, or you can put money in today or it could be tripled tomorrow. You know what I mean? And so it's one of those things where most people say, hey, that's home run money, right? And the way I like to look at finances is we build from, if you think of a pyramid, the foundation of a pyramid is always the most stellar, right? Took the most time, most diligent. Obviously, we got to make sure everything's in alignment, because if not, it can crumble, right? And obviously, those pyramids are still standing today because they was built on solid foundation. And the foundation that we like to look at is obviously protecting your highest value asset. And I'll ask you, I'll see if you get the question right, because most people, they'll tell me something adverse. And so let me stop there. Let me ask you. So Kevin, if you had to tell me what is your highest valued asset today, and there's no wrong answer, what would you say what would your asset be?
Me, my health.
Yeah. Why would you say that?
Because really, if I'm not healthy, nothing else goes.
Yeah. So you're spot on. I ask that question maybe every other time. Yeah, no, probably everybody I sit when I ask that question. And over maybe like the last 6 months, only 2 people got it right, and you were included in one. You're one of them.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
really?
yeah. The other one of my friends that I talked to a couple days ago, he actually got it right as well.
Okay.
But most people tell me it's my house, it's my car, the money I got in the bank. It's really none of those things, because what you just alluded to is that if you stop doing what you're currently doing, right, all the things that you have going on, whether it's in your household, professional, they cease to exist or fall through the floor.
Yes.
And so it's important that you realize, what does it take for me to position myself to be financially bulletproof, to make sure that no matter what life throws at me, my family can always achieve goals. You know what I mean? And that's the mindset we move with. And the conversation is so eye-opening once we have it. People be like, well, I'm only making $50,000 a year. There's a study, and granted, like I said, I'm a psychology major, so I dive into
Come on
things.
with it, baby.
But it's, it was an individual making $50,000 a year, cast out over the next 30 working years, and they implemented bonuses every year, and obviously trying to keep the annual income with inflation, right? Over the next 30 working years, indexed out, that individual will gross a little bit under $3 million. Think about that. So an individual only making $50,000 a year, working for the next 30 years, indexed with inflation, obviously incremental bonuses, will make a little bit under $3 million a year for his working career. That's eye-opening. And imagine if you're making 60, 100, 150, a household of 320. You know what I mean? So it's like the capabilities of what's possible start to open up when you look at things from a place where, hey, I can actually go get that rental property. I can actually go pay for my kids' education and still go accomplish my dreams of traveling out the country every year, going on a second honeymoon, a different anniversary every year. You can do these things, but it's all about looking at it from a standpoint of what I have in totality. Because everybody got things going on in different corners of the room. But nobody knows how it's working together. And then when it is all in front of you, like, oh, there's a shortage right here. I didn't see that one. Because me and my husband or me and my spouse, I handle this part of the finances, they handle this part of the finances, and we ain't really thought about what we want retirement to look like for both of us. You know what I mean? And then often the conversation that we fail to realize, especially as Black people, we like to eat. And so our health may not, like you said, it may not be the best as I continue to get older. So if something transpires, I have a long-term care event, what does my finances look like at that point? What happens to my spouse? Because now he has to pay for my medical bills, and he don't have enough money to live if I happen to do X, Y, and Z.
And guess what? Even with that, and you got that long-term care, from 100% of your earnings it's done dropped down to 60.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But these are things. These are things that's not talked about, and these are things that the vast majority of individuals will say, "I'll handle it when I get there."
You know what? That's sad in itself.
It is, because it's one of those things. Like, I grew up, I had family members sleeping on our couch as a young man, in old age, like, because they didn't do a very good job of positioning themselves to live on their own, to be on their own, or their spouse died and it messed up their plans, and now, or their son needed X, Y, and Z, and it crippled their plans. And it's like, at some point, you have to prioritize yourself to be the one that you look after. And I only say it like that is because parents who love their children, but I alluded to it earlier, your kid has another 30, 40 years to get it right.
Yeah.
You got two.
Yeah.
You got one.
Yes, sir.
And then now you finna be 65, and you thinking like, hey, I don't have enough to retire, I gotta go find a job. The only places you can really get a job at is Walmart. Walmart, shaking hands and smacking.
Welcome to Walmart.
And even them hours are long because you're on your feet all day. And granted, I wouldn't want to walk in and see my parents, see my grandparent, my aunt, my uncle, whatever it may be, or even a friend as 50, 60 years old up there doing that.
Yeah.
That's the my biggest thing is, you're not supposed to work a job and then die. You're not supposed to work a job and then like let life pass you out, because that's how most people think. Oh, I'm gonna work until they put me into the grave, and then that's just all it's gonna be.
You just said something, man, because my pops, man, he worked on his job 35, 36 years. And when he retired, I wish he hadn't have retired. Because when he retired, he went downhill. He went downhill. He was a great guy, and he loved his job.
Yeah.
That's if he loved anything,
it was his work.
It was his work, and he put 110% of his work. I mean, he loved what he did. And I will say he was great at what he did. But when he retired, that was it, man. I mean, like I say, I wish he had stayed working. But those are the type of things that I can even remember, like back in the day, like my grandfather, he had already been retired though, and that what I just said about my dad, it don't pertain to my grandfather. But just being a man where you did things and you were great at them. And when you get to a point where you've been that breadwinner and you can't be that breadwinner anymore, it messes with you. Right here.
Yeah, man. It's a challenging line to follow when you put so much into something. And then granted, I know a lot of great men, just like your grandfather, that put diligent time into their passion, right? I meet with a lot of business owners now that are rock stars in their lane. But once the conversation gets like, oh, retirement is near, I lose the motivation to kind of continue to track towards something, right? That's why most people never want to stop working, especially if they love what they do, or it's their only identity, And so, I'm a former athlete. I got a chance to play, obviously, here at the University of Tennessee, under Coach Pearl and Coach Conzo Martin. I learned a lot, right? And it's one of those things where even before some of these things had kind of happened to me, I already had the understanding that, sports are only so long or so much of your life.
Right.
You know what I mean? And at some point, it's going to come to an end. And for the vast majority of athletes, they don't see it that way, right? They're going to forever be stuck in the mindset, I'm an athlete, this is what I do, you don't know me other than that, right? And my identity is tied, or my self-value is tied to who I am in between those lines or on that field, whatever it may be, how I play, that's where I get my value from, right? And so that's why you see so many guys go up and down with obviously their identity in the public, right? Because there's a lot of stuff that you deal with behind closed doors when all you see is who you are in the sports aspect. And I transition that or I equate that to how people who don't play sports are with their jobs in the working sports, where they put their 110% and their identity is by their work ethic into that lane or that profession. And once it's over, it's like, do I continue to move my feet? What else am I gonna give 110% to? I'm empty, you know. And then most of the times when you're in old age, if you ain't got nothing you're fighting for, you're gonna see something wither away fast. You know what I mean? And it's a sad reality, but it's so hard to find something that you are passionate about in life sometimes, right? Especially if you haven't been raised to continue to utilize your creative juices to kind of expand yourself and get uncomfortable and test things the water and say, "Oh, I'm actually good at this. I can do something in this field." Yeah. But most people don't let them, or the embarrassment of being uncomfortable stop them from stepping outside those lines and testing things out. And so we never really find our true selves, our true purpose, because it's I don't want X, Y, and Z to say X, Y, and Z, and now I have to deal with that. You know what I mean? But it's more so step out on faith. Yeah. You know what I mean? No doubt. Be more courageous. Be more confident. You know, figure out who you are, because at the end of the day, once you do that, you're pretty much unstoppable. Right? You know, it's one of those things where everybody know who everybody else is, but they don't know who they is. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's everybody. Yeah. Everybody can tell you who such and such is. Yes, oh, he a bum. Oh, that's the princess. Oh, that's the queen right here. It's the queen. It's the king right here. Oh, he a bum. Yeah. But who are you? Tell me who you are, because you can outwardly you can tag and post everybody else that's doing X, Y, and Z. But once you figure out who you are, you become accountable for it. That's why a lot of people don't like to figure out who they are, because they don't want to become accountable for who they are. That's true. You know what I mean? And it's a hard pill to swallow sometimes. True. Sometimes you're not him. That's true. But for the vast majority of people, you are. You know what I mean? That is true. That's good stuff. Man, Jeronne, let me ask you, how can people get a hold of you as far as your service? Yeah. You can contact me on any of my social sites. It's pretty much my name, or you can contact me personally. I can give my number out. My number is 573-673-2228. Something you probably can remember, 573-673-2228. And really, the conversation is kind of like what me and Kevin was doing today, just an interpersonal collaborative conversation that's confidential. And obviously, I approach it more so on a walk before you run, so there's no real intention outside of the conversation of just getting an understanding you on a personal and professional side and seeing what value we can bring to some of the stuff that you already got going on.
And I like how you approach it as well. I really do. Yeah. That's good stuff. Do you have an email?
Yeah, I do. It's my name is Jeronne.Maymon@nm.com. So my name is JERONNE Maymon MAYMON @nm.com. And you can email me, you can give me a call, or you can get in touch with Kevin. He can shoot me your contact information, whatever it may be. I'm on Instagram, Maymon_J. You can find me on there. Twitter is my first and last name. So I'm available. Obviously, I'm around in Knoxville. I look forward to just connecting with people, and obviously individuals that are motivated to continue to shift their life and be in a position to not only live on their terms, but be confident that they got the peace of mind that good things happen, and they're who it can happen to. Yeah.
That's good stuff. Hey, so I'm gonna give you my contact. I always do. And like I always say, it's up to you to reach out. Kevin Overett 0@gmail.com. Again, that's Kevin Overett 0@gmail.com. This is gonna be our show for today, and we want to thank Mr. Jeronne for coming in to see us.
Yes, sir.
we sure enough appreciate all the information that you have given us. So I just want to thank you for the conversation.
Oh yeah, most certainly.
You
man.
know,
Appreciate you having me.
I love it, man, and thank you again. And if there's not any, you got anything else for the people?
Really, just be on the lookout for 2023. I got a nonprofit here in Knoxville. Blessed to be able to implement that here, just to kind of help individuals in those communities reach sustainable success, not only in the financial space, but really just overall, just in the household, providing really good impact there, doing a lot of good work with a lot of individuals that's already in the community. So I look forward to seeing individuals in 2023 as United Impact, continues to imprint our city.
All right, my brother. Well, we appreciate it again. And this is your host, Kevin Cunningham. And I will see you on the